Good morning, everybody. It's your boy D Max. So let's talk. First off, I want to say good morning. Good morning to you, Lovey. Um, I wanted to take this time out this morning and do something for some people who really changed my life. I think it's fitting. I always check in with these people, make sure they cool. They check in with me to make sure I'm cool. And they've just made a major, major difference in my life. And I just wanted to give them their flowers this morning. And so I'm doing a Resolution Ranch roll call for all of my boys from the the therapeutic boarding school academy that I worked at when I got out of the military. Because when I got out of the military, I was trying to find something to do with myself. Excuse me, I'm just waking up good, trying to still get the sleep out my throat, my eyes. And but yeah, so I was working at this place. I got a job at this place called Resolution Ranch Academy. It's like, okay, so we'll check this out. Now I'm going to keep their names. I'm not going to say their names just out of privacy sake. and but yeah, the story is 100% true. And this is how it went down. So, I go in. I'm fresh out of the military. Um, And when I walk through the doors to do my interview, they have the magnetic lock doors. So you can't just open a door. You have to have a key card to actually open the doors because it's a residential program. And these kids are like, they have the tendency to run away because they pretty much came there against their own will. And so in the beginning, like those first few weeks that they're there, they have a tendency to try to run. Now, this place is on 500 acres of land. So they're going to be on like one of them slave runs through the woods if they decide to run. But we know pretty much all the different areas that they're going to go to. And so that's just a little backdrop on how this place is set up a little bit. And so I got there, they came, scanned me in with the key card. So I go into a large, I guess you could say it's like not a dining room area. It's like a large, just open area. And it's a place where all of the residents can come and sit down and relax. They have couches and stuff out there, and then they have like I guess like their dining area where they have all the tables set up and stuff. Anyway, I get in there, and one of the first things that I see is all of the residents. There's about 45 boys in this program at any given time. And so they're all sitting down in a circle and they're sharing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So let me see what they're talking about. And so I just kind of go and sit over there behind them off in the cut. And apparently they have groups. If you've been to group therapy or anything like that, then you understand what I say about groups. But they have groups where you can come and you can voice your issue or you can voice a concern or anything like that. And every resident in the program has the power and the right to call a group whenever they feel like something's been done wrong to them and yada yada yada. Okay, so apparently one of them called group on some other residents, two other residents, because those two other residents had convinced him that they had pissed in his shampoo bottle. And so he was upset by that and he wanted to confront them about that in front of the whole community. So I was like, okay, this interesting beginning, but just things happen. I've had brothers, I have older brothers, so I know how they will tease and stuff like that. So, all right, cool. Uh, Fast forward, went to the interview. Interview went well. I ended up getting the job. I started that. I think I started on a Monday. And when I got there, I didn't know what to expect at all. I've worked around children, I've worked around kids, but not like a bunch of troubled kids in one condensed area. I'm like, oh wow, this is about to be an experience. Okay. And so I got there, and just to kind of skip through this thing a little bit, I came into a situation to where there were a lot of kids who at this time was going through a transitional phase. And I'm not saying as far as their physical bodies or not even their well, I guess it can be said as their mentality, because it was around 2013, 2014, whenever things were really changing and people were really, really starting to really get connected to social media, because that's when it really took off to me. I mean, beforehand, yeah, you had like MySpace and minor stuff, and Facebook was just coming out. It was still fresh and new, and young people was on it then instead of all the older people that's on Facebook now. There was absolutely no such thing as Instagram in 2013, 14, or at least I hadn't been on it yet. I'll just say that. Um, but yeah, there was a transition uh, between 2000, I'll say between 2012 and 2015, in the attitude of kids, the youth. There was a change in aggression in that age of youth, and I was trying to figure out, where did this come from? What's going on that's causing these kids to be so much more hyper aggressive, so much more into drugs, so much more that, I'll just say, their fear was stripped away. That's what it felt like to me. That's what it seemed like to me. And man, they was ready to go full throttle. They was ready to do whatever, and they would blow up at any given time. I'm like, oh shit, what I get myself into. Man, this is about to be crazy. And I'm sitting here and I'm not even knowing that I'm having PTSD. I'm, I was like, man, this might not be good. And so I was like, but I'm gonna give it a try. I'm not gonna just let it go. I'm gonna give it a try and see how this thing works out. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to um, give it a try, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I can absolutely say that. There were certain staff members when I first got there. One of the main guys, he definitely helped me out. He pretty much took me under his wing, showed me everything, the ins and outs of everything, how to do this and that. And he gave his heart to that place. And I always admired that, and I tried to pattern my work ethic and the way that I dealt with the residents based off what he showed me, because he was very well respected. He was very well loved, and he did so much for the place. He was a representation of what a mentor should be. You know what I'm saying? And so he taught me well, I don't know if he taught me everything he knew, but he taught me the things that would set me on a path of success with these kids. And I took what he gave me. I chewed up the meat and spit out the bones. I added my own flavor to it. And then, I started to deal with the residents, because about the first week that you're there, you have to shadow one of the staff members to see how the whole program is set up, how the scheduling is, and all of the different movements, because there was no residents that moved solely by themselves, unsupervised by a staff member. They always moved as a unit if they had to go somewhere, and if one of them had to go somewhere, they still had to be chaperoned by a staff member, because, like I said, a lot of these kids had a tendency to run. And so, um, time went on. I began to, get the swing of things, and I began to um, build relationships and build rapport with the kids, because one of the main things that happens to every staff member, and this determines whether you're going to leave or go from this place. Whenever you get there and you're a new staff member, they're going to test you, they're going to push boundaries, just to see how far they can get with you. That is your initiation into Resolution Ranch. And all it's like all the kids do it. It's nothing that's orchestrated, or that's just how they are. When you come in those doors and you get one of those little badges to swipe and let those doors open, you're gonna get tested to no end. But you have to stand firm to the policies and the procedures of the program and remind them, because they all know the policies and procedures of the program, because reciting them without looking at it on a piece of paper is one of the requirements to level up to each level until you're ready to graduate the program. And so they know all the policies and procedures of this program. And so if they try to pull anything over on you, you've now taken away their go to. You know what they always say, oh, well, I didn't know that. No, you do know that, because this is something that you have to recite in order to move up from level one to level two, two to level three, and so on until you get to level five and ready to graduate. So you cannot tell me that you don't know. That's not going to be acceptable. And so when you take that type of accountability and apply it to their lives, and then begin to build structure in their lives, there's going to be a whole lot of pushback. And that's the very core of what we dealt with. All of that pushback from structure, because the households that these kids came from was not structured households in a lot of situations, just like a lot of our own personal lives, just like a lot of our own homes. And so I understood that. So when I came into, seeing the inner workings and what was the root problems of these guys lashing out, I began to see family unit. Okay, got you. So and so and so and so. Okay, got you. And that's where the problems always lie, in the parents. And you would see it whenever they would come for, they have visitations on Saturdays and Sundays. And so when you see the parents come for visitation and how they interact with their child, you begin to see, okay, I got it. And then the parents who don't come on Saturdays or Sundays, after saying they will and seeing how disappointed that kid is, and then instead of expressing it in disappointment and sadness, they channel it through anger and want to destroy everything in sight. And then that's when you have to do the restraints and all of the stuff like that. And your heart is going out for this child, but at the same time you can't allow that child to hurt everybody else in that program, because they're angry about disappointment in their life. And so we have to teach them how to cope with disappointments, life skills, anger management, all of these different things. The whole cognitive behavioral therapy module that's that's been implemented into the mental health system over the past 5 to 7 years has been something to treat this shift in energy with the youth. Um, And for those 3 years that I worked there, this is something that I notice every cycle because as the kids get to level 5 and they graduate the program, then the new ones come through. So we always have rotating cycles coming through at all times. And so you began to see through each cycle that came through, the kids would get progressively more rough, more um, just savage, for lack of a better word. I'm not calling them savages. I'm saying that their attitude and their lack of fear and just their just whole demeanor, their whole level of aggression was on 10. And I'm like, what's going on out here that's causing each cycle of kids to come through to be much more aggressive than the last? And, it was puzzling me because it alerted me to a larger scheme of things. And that's the fact that this is not only happening to these kids that come into this program. There's a lot of kids out there that this exact thing is happening to, and they cannot afford to come to a program like this because that program, I'm telling you, it was very expensive. It was not a program that you could. I'll say it like this: 2 grand a month could not get you into that program, and the program was at least 6 months to 18 months long. And so you would have to have well over, I say you have to have well over 3 grand a month for this program for one child. And we had 45 children at any given time. So that just lets you know that they come from families that have financial means and things like that, and they're pretty successful people as far as business goes. But when it comes down to family, business will take you away from family, and different occupations will take you away. I get that. I've seen all of those different scenarios, and I've seen those families work through those things utilizing this program, but they had the money to do that. And there's not a lot of people out here who have 3 racks a month to spend or invest in someone building the structure in your child's life that you weren't able to do. I just don't see a lot of blue collar and no collar people out here forking out that kind of dough because we just don't have it like that. And so that realization hit me that take these 45 young men right here who are going through these struggles and all of these real world problems, and you multiply that by, I'll just say, 5 million, because all across this nation, we have children who are being plagued by bullying. This is one of the biggest issues that was raised in the program, and one of the greatest underlying issue of a lot of their anger and a lot of their frustration. Some of them was anxiety. Um, let's see what else, because might I also add that a lot of them were on heavy medications as well for mental health issues, for depression. um, so many different things that we were dealing with on a daily basis from each one of these guys. And I will tell you this: never in my life have I experienced so much perseverance, so much courage, so much determination, so much character, so much vulnerability as these young men showed me in this program. And that's something that changed my life. And I used to tell them this, and they used to think that I was just saying it, just to be saying it, but that was the absolute truth. The things that I experienced with those guys and the changes that I would see in somebody over a 6 month period was absolutely, it's amazing. It's inspiring. And if you can look at a child who's 14, 15, 16 years old, who's just trying to figure out their identity, and they have this compounded on them by being locked down in a facility, and they just having to rebuild a form of structure in their lives, and all of the problems they go through and they overcome. Man, it was an inspiring thing for me to sit there and watch this. It was also an inspiring thing for me to be able to be a part of it and be able to guide them along the way and help them out. And to this day, to this very day, I still stay in touch with some of the alumni from Resolution Ranch Academy. And so whenever I know over the last couple of days, everybody's been putting up this, it's Daughters Day, so they're posting pictures of their daughters, and it's National Sons Day, they're posting pictures of their sons, and so I posted pictures of my daughters, posted pictures of my sons, but I was like, if I was to really post a picture of all of the young men that I consider sons to me, I don't think Facebook would have enough room for it. My page would get jammed up or something, because there's a lot of guys from that program, man, that I still talk to. Whenever they go through milestones in their life, they'll hit me up. Hey, Mac, man, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And man, it's a great thing. It's a great feeling to know that somebody was able to overcome adversity in their lives at such an early age and learn this lesson that we're learning at 25 and 30 and 35. These guys are getting that lesson in those early stages of 15, 16, 17. And that's why I say the realization hit me when I was working at this place that, man, there's so many people out here that could benefit from this information, and just the information of how to de-escalate and how to cool down whenever you're angry. Just the whole anger management module, that is so detrimental to people's lives. If more people out here in the streets just had that information, it would it, I, there would it would change the outcome of a lot of violent situations that take place. That's the best way that I can put that. And so when I think about that, whenever I ended up, fast forward, I retired, um, period, and 2015. And so when I did that, I came out of that place with a different understanding of the youth of today, because I would always try to put them in the category of, well, when I grew up, but they made me realize, and they let me know all the time, that this is a new generation. This is not your old generation. This is not, um yeah, this is our time now. So all of those things that all of those things that you think to do, all of those things that you did back in your time, we're not doing that now. This is the new generation, and we do our own thing. And I was like, okay, got you loud and clear. Got you loud and clear. And so when that took place, I was like, I see what the transition is now. And my mom used to say it all the time, but I never understood what she meant when she said it. And she was like, every generation gets weaker and wiser. And I never understood that. And I never really asked her what it meant. But in that moment with those guys, I understood exactly what it meant. And so that changed my whole perspective, and it changed my whole mentality on how to deal with the youth as I come out here into the civilian world. That's what they call this, the civilian world, because when you're institutionalized, everything outside of that has been cut off from you. They get phone calls with their parents on the weekends, but it's only for like 15 minutes or something like that. And I dropped the link, if anybody have any questions about um, this place or dealing with young men, mentoring youth or anything like that. So, like I said, I dropped the link. You can come up if you want to talk about it with me. But going back to the story. So, they get a phone call on the weekends if they haven't got their privilege taken away by acting out, and they'll get a 15-minute call, talk to their parents. So they're institutionalized. And so I told them, whenever you get out of this place and you go back out into the civilian world, you're going to have to deal with all of this stuff, and you're not going to be able to call group. You're not going to be able to, but what you can do is you can get that person who you have the offense with and get somebody else to witness it, and you can bring it to them. You can exercise and utilize all the tools that you learned in this program. And it's funny I say utilize the tools because there was a therapist who used to always say that, but the way he said it is kind of like the teacher off of South Park. And so the kids would always mock him whenever he says use your tools. But, just a little funny stuff from the ranch. But so we get, we always reinforce with them, use your tools out in the world, man. And so these guys will hit me up and be, hey, man, I went through so and so, and I was ready to flip. I was ready to snap and just say, fuck it. But, Mac, I used my tools, man. I stepped back and I took a deep breath. And, yo, man, that's inspiring to hear these young men who get it. Some of them got it. It clicked, and that's what we did it all for. We didn't have this unrealistic expectation that every single kid was going to just flourish and was going to get it and was going to go off and become the next Steve Jobs. We had our expectations exactly where they were supposed to be. The success rate with a program like this at its best is about 40%. 40% success rate. That's a very, very high number when you're dealing with youth who have anger issues and behavioral health issues and mental health issues. So, there were some guys who would get it, and they've moved on, and they've uh, worked out the issues in their life that they needed to so that they could see more clearly and have a better outlook on things. And you can see the quality of their life now as they're growing and they're becoming grown men and they're getting married and starting families and things of that nature. You see the growth, you see the success. But then there's the other side to where you see the ones who faked it till they made it, and then whenever they got out they just went back to what they used to do. And those guys keep a tight circle and they keep a network with each other once they get out of there, some of them for good reasons, some of them for not good reasons. And so, you would hear things coming through the wire, and then there's some things that would just blow your mind. One of the residents actually, after he got out of the program, he went home and he murdered his adoptive parents. Um, and it was, I mean, when I the news got to me and I heard who it was, I can't say that I was really surprised. I really can't. I really can't say that I was surprised because, dealing with this guy, some people you can see some things in them. And like I said, I have the spirit of discernment. And so I could see some things in this young man, some things that were scary to look at. When you look into somebody's eyes and the eyes are the windows to their soul, and you look into their eyes, and depending on what you see, it's going to let you know who and what you're dealing with. And yeah, so I still pray for the dude because he definitely needs it. And I know his background, and I know the origin of you know why this is. I'm not going to disclose any of that, but I pray for him still. And then there's ones who tragedy takes place too. And there was a resident that was in the program who, um, a lot of people said he fell to his death accidentally. Um, but given his past history, it's questionable if it was accident. And it's very unfortunate because if this young man would have been able to get over his disappointment and his hurt and his deep depression, he was an absolute amazing person. He definitely makes the world a better place whenever he's in the right attitude. And man, it was just so hard to hear that his life was cut short at such a young age. So not everybody in the ranch has gotten a good deal whenever they come out of the program, but yet and still the opportunity that it gave them to turn it around. And for the ones who have been able to turn it around, and for the ones who are still trying to turn it around, I salute each and every one of you. DMAX still prays for each and every one of you. I often check in on you for the ones that I still have contact with, and the ones that I don't have contact with, you still talk to the other dudes. So I know what's going on indirectly if I'm not directly in contact with you right now. So I'll just put it like that. Mac is always watching, y'all. I always told y'all that Mac is always watching. Even once you go outside of those gates, Mac is always watching, and I'm always there. I'm always on point with it. Some of them, they check out my content and give me feedback. Some of them, they check out my TikToks and they laugh and they're like, yeah, same old crazy Mac. You always been that type of person. But the level of, uh, hold up, I got to cut and say this because working with those guys helped me with working on my relationships with my children. Because when I went into the military, and like I said, I was gone a majority of those 8 years, and you know, a lot of my relationships with my kids got strained because I wasn't there, and they were growing up, and they were at a time where it was crucial to be there, and I wasn't. So when I came back and tried to get back into the groove of things, it was a lot of struggles. And so working with these kids absolutely gave me the tools. It gave me the mindset and the skills to be able to address those issues with my kids in a healthy manner so that we can get some resolution in out of the situation. There's that word again, resolution. Salute to Resolution Ranch Academy. So this thing was not just something for the residents. This place was something for the staff, for the owners, because the owners always would come down and check on things, and just give a shout out to them. Um, they're they're all right. So you know how a guy will be a professional athlete, and then whenever they get out of the sport, they'll usually do something like go be a coach at their old high school or college or something along those lines, and stay in that vein of football. Well, this one particular NFL player didn't think like that. You know, he after here we go. Hold up, I gotta decline you right now, New. I'll call you back, babe. But instead of staying in the vein of football and coaching and stuff like that, he um he decided to open up a place for young men who was troubled youth, because he stated that there was a lot of young men who initially would come into the NFL and they had that opportunity given to them because of their skills, but they had no people skills, they had no social skills, they had anger management issues, and a lot of these guys never got a chance to even see the field on game day, because they did not have the social skills to exist in that world. And a lot of young men who were very talented, who could have changed the lives of many people in their families and in their communities, lost that opportunity because they did not have the social skills to do so. And so he decided when he got out of the NFL that he would open up this place, and he would catch him at that young age, from the age of 13 to 17 years old, those very influential teenage years. And he opened up this place, and he began this program, and he brought in his college buddy. His They played football together in college, and he helped him out on the business side and stuff like that, and just created a dope program. I still salute them. I think it's one of the most inspirational, one of the most detrimental things that's needed in our society right now, because the youth are really hurting. The youth are going through depression at the highest rate ever, and they're taking their own lives at one of the highest rates ever. And so we have to have a system in place. We have to have these different organizations in place to catch them before they completely fall. And so I salute the ranch. I salute all of the residents, those who have passed on, those who are still here, those who are still probably going through some struggles in life and still battling with some poor decisions, and those that who are making good decisions and starting to see the product of their good decisions. I salute every single one of you. DMAC is proud of you. I've always been proud of you. And yeah, I'm about to get out of here. So y'all know what I say, man. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.